Hey everyone, this is Hill Street Soul, and you're tuned in to The Core with the Millennial Coach, discussing topics on real life. Check it out. Everywhere you go, don't forget the ghetto. Listen to The Core.
What is up, people, or coaches, as I say? I am the Millennial Coach. Welcome back to The Core, and I'm back in the lab doing today's show. So it's been a bit of a tiring week. I haven't been too well, but I'm getting there. And I know I have a video with high meditation music. I need to organize that, and please bear with me. And endometriosis took me out for about 5 days, so I apologize if anything I sound a little bit too somber this week, because I'm just getting through. What happens is I'm on a high, I'm doing everything's going according to plan, and then I get really ill, and then it just kind of takes me out. So forgive my somber mood if it comes across as that. It's just I am still recovering. So I do want to welcome you if you are a first-time watcher/listener, because the shows are below. If you want to listen to the shows in complete totality, they're 2-hour shows, and I DJ on those shows. I would appreciate if those of you that like good music lock into The Core in the full entirety of the show. If this is your first time, welcome, and I love to offend people. So if you are someone who doesn't understand my sense of humor, please switch over to somebody else. And don't worry, I won't be offended, because I'm not for everyone, and guess what? Everyone's not for me. So today, or this week, we're going to be talking about misinterpretation, and I call it the miseducation of interpretation, because I think a lot of the time we're in a space that everyone's just in their own world. Everyone's doing their own thing. Everyone's rushing. Everyone's going from pillar to post every day. You're working. You know, some people have children. Some people are caring for elderly parents. Some people deem their own health issues. So a lot of the time, we're not actually sitting down to really think about what we are dealing with on a regular basis. And I really do find that a lot of the time, our lives are so embedded in our minds that we don't actually tend to live out what we want to live out, because we're too busy trying to deal with the day-to-day, and we're in survival mode. So I want to talk about the miseducation, and I want to thank Lauren Hill for bringing that term, miseducation of interpretation, because I am someone who's often misinterpreted. And people don't always get what I'm saying. And if you understand my heart, you understand the way I operate. You don't understand my heart, and you've not given yourself any time to learn about me, that's your loss. Because and a friend of mine said this. She said, I'm a great friend to have, and I feel the same way. I'm a great friend to have. If I've got you 150%. If I'm a great woman to be in a relationship with, if I've got you, you've got. I think I've seen the meme, and I'm gonna try and quote it. I'm your best friend, I'm your ride or die, I'm your, I will ride shotgun. I'm the person that will rob a bank with you, bury the body, and still make love to you. Like, I'm that kind of chick. So, and then I'll be in the house being all domesticated, making sure the house is taken care of. I love cooking. Run you a bath, Shannon. So there's hope. There's hope, right? Oh, and the other thing I was thinking about, so I've been watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, season 3, so the new season's out. And I think if I was old enough, I think that Coco Jones will be me and Shannon Sharp's daughter. So I came to that conclusion because I was like, she's fine, I'm fine, and he's fine. Like, me and him would make an amazing daughter. Not saying that his kids ain't fine, because I haven't even seen his children, but he's got kids. I've got bonus kids I haven't met yet. But yeah, Coco Jones, that would be my daughter. And no offense to her parents, but you have produced one hell of a human being, multi-talented. So yes, kudos to Coco Jones. But Coco Jones, aka what's her name? Hillary in Fresh Prince, she would be the child that I would birth. So let's get into the show. So this is me just living in my head. So 2 TV shows I want you to think about and research if you haven't. If you're not in the UK, go online and find these shows somehow and watch them, okay? Really good. So there's one that I've recently found called The Tower. The first season is 3 episodes. The second season is 4 episodes. And I think the third season I just finished watching literally the other day. And I think it was a Thursday I watched it. I actually started crying at the end. I need you to watch it. It's a fantastic show. ITV. I must say, right, I know British TV has its fluctuations with some of the shows, but British TV, when you've got really good writers, you knock it out the park. And I remember Linda LaPlante as a writer, Band of Gold. Certain shows were amazing, excellent. So I definitely would say to you, if you're someone who likes television like I do, good TV, not trash TV. Well, you might cuss me and say Real Housewives is trash. You need to watch it from a perspective of growth. So I'm looking at it from a coaching perspective. So, and also the second show is The Split. Now, ITV, they keep saying it's the last season and they make a new season. Fabulous, fabulous show of lawyers, a family of lawyers, but they've all got their own individual issues. And the mum is a lawyer, the dad was having an affair, and I think the wife had an affair, the main character had an affair, the husband had an affair. But it's it's not even about the affairs. So let me just stop talking about the affairs. It's really about human connection, human relationships, human minds, the mindset. And when you really want something to work, there are things that you're going to do that may be beyond the norm in your world. You might, when if you listen to the old R&B songs, which I now realize is very toxic. Thanks, R. Kelly. If you listen to old songs when they're talking about baby, baby, please, those kind of things are teaching us to live in a space where we're not being authentic to ourselves. So I want you to take that into consideration, is when you're watching shows, what comes up for you? And how do you relate to television shows? Not just watch it, but does it make you think about the things you're doing in your life? Does it make you think about the relationships you have in your life? So, and that's the thing, is the crux for me, is really looking at things and thinking, okay, that's probably not how I want to show up anymore. Drinking, if you're someone who's watching a show and someone is just constantly drinking, becomes an alcoholic, loses everything, because it gives you visibility on what the possibilities of life could be. Or if you've watched Industry, the TV show Industry, where you see people who are so obsessed with money and winning, but yet have such toxic behaviors on the trading floor. Is that the kind of lifestyle that you want, or the person that you want to become just to be successful? No, for me personally, no, it isn't. You can be successful by being kind. You can be successful by being a servant leader, as I've mentioned previously. But think about what that looks like for you. So I want to talk about, so you are locked into the call with me, the Millennial Coach, and I want to talk about the miseducation of interpretation. And what does that actually mean? So when we misunderstand things, we really do not get to take our time to actually ask questions to get clarity. Why don't we do that? I actually don't know, because we are individuals. And the other thing I do want to say, I truly believe, as an individual that has worked with so many thousands of people, we are all on the spectrum. Everyone's got an idiosyncrasy that we don't understand. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody is different. Some people have heightened behaviors, and some people have more subtle behaviors. But we all have differences about us that some people don't understand. But what I find fascinating is, as individuals, we don't ask questions. We don't want to understand why someone's turned out the way they have, or we don't recognize that we may see that person's behavior in ourselves, and therefore we criticize him. I'm guilty of it. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not. So when it comes to relationships, this is, one of the hot topics on the internet. Everyone talks about relationships, and there's so many unqualified people speaking. So I really hope that you're not taking everything that they're saying for gospel, because it isn't the truth. necessarily in what they're saying, and it doesn't necessarily relate to you. Lack of communication, and this is what happens when I speak about dating. I don't go online anymore. I always tell people, if you're like, I've got friends that are lawyers, invite me to one of your events. I've got friends that do certain things, because I want to meet people that are like the friends that I have in my life, that are successful, that are, level-headed, that people that you can actually have conversations with, and they don't actually get offended. They're like, oh, and they want to explore things more. Those ones that get offended and all that, I just actually haven't got the time anymore to try to understand them, because I've given time. So when you give time and people don't change, or they don't see what they're doing as a problem, that isn't for you to fix, okay? So lack of communication creates misinterpretation. And when I say that, I'm talking about the healed versus the unhealed. So when I talk about the healed versus the unhealed, have you ever experienced where you've done the work? And Mashallah, I'm giving you a shout out, Rude Girl, because when we sit and have breakfast, we go to the breakfast brunch place, right? And we will get there at what, 10:30, 11, and we don't leave. And they say, excuse me, we're closing. So Mashallah and me, we will sit and have live conversations. And she said something to me, and this has stuck with me since she said it. She said, when I talk to men, you can tell if they've done the work. And I was like, I feel you on what you're saying in terms of done the work. A lot of people don't do the work. It's not, and the thing is, looking and reflecting on yourself and digesting some of your poor behaviors, your poor habits that haven't yielded you the results that you want in your career, in your relationships, in your friendships, in your family ships. It's challenging. Looking at yourself is hard. I'm always doing transition work, in terms of, when I say transition, is what behavior do I want to change within myself in order to be the best coach I can be for others. And it's sometimes quite tough, because you realize that sometimes you do actually create toxicity in your environment because of your miseducation of interpretation of others. So healed versus the unhealed. So if you are healed, and we are always, if you're like me, you're always working on healing, and don't live in the land of education in terms of learning to heal. You've got to stop for a bit and then enjoy the fruits of your labor, which is just live, right? But when you are healing, there's behaviors that you're not going to tolerate anymore, right? So when a man, and I love talking about the relationship bit, because when a man, so let me tell you a little story. So I was in the shop the other day and I was buying my dad some Guinness. And I hope I haven't told the story before. And some guy says to me, and he was Jamaican. I'm not dissing Jamaicans because you're my people. But it was like, buy me a Guinness now. And I was like, I was so disgusted. I said to him, shouldn't you be paying for my shopping, or even paying for the Guinness? Because, and I'll tell you why this is a problem. I am somebody, if I date a man, I enjoy taking care of my man. That's my personal preference, right? Because I want my man to take care of me. That's how I look at relationships. We are in it to win it, and we are doing it as a collective. It's not you versus me. It's us in it. When you are trying to impress me, asking me for something you don't even know me is disrespectful, first of all. And secondly, is this how you introduce yourself to somebody who potentially could be their husband? You're begging, you don't even look like you've showered, and now you're asking me to buy you Guinness. Like I said to him, this is actually for my dad. So as a man, I would expect you to pay for it for my dad, even if you're trying to get into his good graces. Not asking his daughter to buy you Guinness. And what happens with unhealed people? They start off with some toxic behavior that looks small. Buy me a Guinness. And then next time, I really need some money. And then the next time, could you go and the requests become bigger and bigger and more expensive on time. Time you can't get back. So that's the biggest commodity that we don't even value and measure. So when you're wasting time with somebody who doesn't even have respect for themselves, then to me, you're disrespecting yourself. So when you when you're healed, you don't tolerate a lot of things. Relationships in friendship, or I say friendships. So this is something that for me, as a healed person, I'm not going to tolerate bad behavior in friendships. And what do I mean by bad behavior? So there was a girl that I was friends with, and we were friends for a while, and she's one of these people that give you backhanded compliments, and she says certain things, and you know when you sit there and you think, okay. And I'm the kind of person, I'm tolerant. And then one time, I was very ill at the time. My endometriosis was playing up, or it was really bad that time. And I brought her on the call on the radio show or the podcast. And she was actually passive aggressive, making some feisty comments and being disrespectful. And two people who don't even know each other that listened to the show messaged me and said, "Who was that B? I don't like that word." And I was like, wow. One knew who she was. The other one was like, she was a complete B to you. I was like, well, I've heard stories about this person from different people that I'm friends with. And I am the kind of person I want to find out for myself. Sometimes that's not the best thing. Sometimes you need to take heed and listen. When someone gives you, especially if people are honest, give them the benefit of the doubt and actually say, let me take a little bit a step away from someone, because I might be misinterpreting what they're saying, but people have lived experiences. So sometimes it's not, what's the point of going through the pain when you could avoid it, right? So we finished the show and she said, "Oh, your social media is popping, so can you teach me?" I was like, "No, I can't teach you," because I was already irritated. So my response was, "No, I can't teach you." Do you know that time, after I said that, she stopped talking to me. I have driven this person to their home and they live in a different part of London, and going from one part of London to the other takes an hour just to get there. So to come home is another hour, right? So I think I'm kind enough to do stuff like that. I will take people to the theatre. I've taken her to the theatre. I've done a lot of nice things for this person. So the fact I said no, because you've seen something that is working for me and I don't want to show you because I'm actually quite tired. And I actually was going to say to her, I actually teach digital marketing and I get paid for it, right, at the time. What I was going to suggest to her to come to the class and then she can learn as an addition. But so fast forward, I asked her, "What's your problem?" Like, this is months later. And then she's saying to me, I felt foolish. So her ego was at an all-time high because I didn't have the capacity to help her. And because I said no, she wanted to hate on me. So to me, that's someone who's not a healed person, because you're always looking to take. What are you giving? Another person, known them for a long time. And I've run this by a few people, and everybody I run this response by, they were like, it was the person's birthday, I must have said, "Oh, what you wearing?" "Oh, what do you need to know what we're wearing?" And the attitude was like, okay. So I just said, I won't be making it to your birthday. I'm not going to now have somebody talk to me as if they're doing me a favor when I'm coming to your birthday. So I just decided it's enough now. I've been friends with this person for a long time. We've tried to rekindle the friendship. I don't know who the person has become since we've not spoken for a long time. But also, I don't talk to people like that. And people are not going to talk to me like that. So that was the end of that relationship. Not interested. And they said, "Oh, I've tried to contact you and you haven't picked up." I said, "Because you are quite a rude person, and to be quite honest, I'm actually done." So if you ask me, I'll tell you. Did I try to rekindle the friendship with the last girl? We did have a conversation and I was just done. And she said she's disappointed the friendship's ended. But when you're not talking to me and you're giving me one-word responses, you weren't disappointed, were you? So I'm the kind of person, I don't have a miseducation of interpretation. I know exactly what your people are doing, and I know exactly the fact that they haven't healed. But I'm just giving this to you as an example that people's responses and unhealed wounds are not your responsibility. Not my responsibility, not your responsibility. So if they've misinterpreted or they got the miseducation of interpretation because they haven't healed their wounds. And that's where unhealed people come from. They miseducate themselves on responses on a regular basis. It's not something that happens by accident. So when you're not healed, it's something you have to go away and fix. It isn't the responsibility of your parents. And sometimes the parents have effed them up anyway. So you can't go to the person that effed you up for healing. That's the other thing you can't do. You need to go to better help, or you need to go and find a therapist, or you need to go and just deal with it. But why I'm saying what I'm saying, and I'm saying that to say this. Misinterpretation creates miseducation of interpretation creates a lot of problems. And if you are going to commit to friendship, relationship, workplace, you need to think about what you can tolerate. Seriously. We don't think about that because we think, oh, we need money or we need friends. You don't need friends. One of my friends, she said her husband hasn't got friends. Even I want to even celebrate him. How long have you managed to even be able to be that within yourself? Because a lot of people can learn those tools. You don't need to be everyone's friend in the workplace. You can be cool with people, and I'm quite a friendly person. But again, that's another episode this week. I'm going to talk about miseducation in the workplace. If you don't understand that me being kind is a way of living, then you got a problem with how you miseducate yourself on kindness. But that's another conversation. But what happens when we deal with unhealed people, especially when you're in relationships? When you're in relationships, male, female, male to male, female to female, right? When you're in relationships, and I think this is why gay relationships, to me, have more longevity. When people say I've been together 25, 30 years, and the olden times, and when I talk about olden times, when people have been married, heterosexual couples, for 59 years or 49 years, because they grew and learned to communicate and be effective in understanding and interpreting what each other's saying without defense and being on the offense. Okay, so what happens when we don't communicate? We ghost, right? We ghost people. We don't communicate. And I listen, I ghost you after I've given you opportunity. I'm not going to keep going backward. This is not the Real Housewives, right? I'm not going to keep trying to figure out why Shannon Bedora is upset about this, that, and the third, right? So I'm just saying, I'm not that person. If I've asked you a few times, you're doing what you're doing, and you keep repeating it, then eventually we are not going to have any more conversation. I will ghost you. Cookie jarring is keeping someone as a backup in case things don't work out. Because when we use people and we're unhealed, and then we have a lack of education, that's the miseducation. When people are good to you, some people just show up because it works for them. So that cookie jarring business, having someone in the back pocket as your contingency plan. If you know that you are one of those contingency plans, this is where you actually use ghosting to your advantage. So another thing, when we're dealing with miseducation of interpretation, people start orbiting. So someone becomes a part of your life, but make sure they keep themselves relevant by popping up when there's, on social media, or they're liking something. And there's a girl that I no longer have any desire to talk to, because unhealed girl, broken, misunderstands everything. And the thing is, I think when people also, when they're in their unhealed version of themselves, is when you say something, they're reactive. And when you're reactive, that means that there's a trigger that you haven't healed. But what people do is orbit. So they will pop up when something good happens in your life, and they will try and write a comment on social media or on your WhatsApp state or whatever. And then they'll try and make a joke. That's orbiting. It's when people are just around, like you go around the sun, you're orbiting. I hope I'm making you feel dizzy. Breadcrumbing. So those people that send sporadic messages just to keep you connected. That's very poor education, because when you're healed, you're interpreting it as this person wants to make sure that they stay connected to somebody of substance, but they don't want to invest into the relationship. The breadcrumbing, when people do that, when you pop up, again, it's a one word response. Because you've misinterpreted who I am as a person. I'm an investor of people. I like to invest in my relationships, friendships, and it doesn't, if I'm going to build, I want to build from a place of substance, not from a place of weakness within myself and an unhealed version of myself to build a weak foundation. It doesn't work. So something like benching is similar to breadcrumbing and cookie jarring. So when you bench someone, like that girl benched me when I said no to her about digital marketing, she benched me because it wasn't working in her favor anymore. So you keep somebody over there until further notice, till it's good for them. And then when I said I'm done with, so it was my birthday. I remember it was my birthday and it was COVID and I never heard from her. And I said to her, this is not the friendships I actually engage in. I said, you haven't asked me anything. And the thing is, when I message you, you're giving me this breadcrumbing response. So I said, listen, no hard feelings, but let's end the friendship. That's when now you're doing, the sales tactic. Everything must go. It's now 78% off. And then everyone's running to the shop. So now the relationship has got to go. So now you're coming back. So my thing was this. You can't care enough because you don't care enough. And that's cool. But I'm the kind of person I accept how people deal with me and I reposition them in how I deal with them. I am the Millennial Coach. I hope today's been useful. Please subscribe, keep the channel going, get your friends, have these conversations with your friends, send the show to your friends. These are important conversations to get you into a place of healing. I am all about living in your best version of yourself, not living your best life, because some of us are not even there yet. So let's not live in a fictitious way of happiness. But I want you to really think about the life and mindset you're trying to cultivate, and the people in your life. Do they understand you, or is there a level of miseducation of interpretation of who you are? Hope today's been helpful. See you tomorrow for day 2. Peace.